It is official! The January 6th Select Committee has subpoenaed one Donald John Trump, and he's going to come in and he's going to blow it all up. And he will give the truth, and he will be under oath, and he will... I feel like I should be doing this with a skull in my hand, talking about existential crises or something like that, whether 'tis noble to live, to suffer with the pain and slings and arrows of everyday life, or whether to die and sleep no more. Because that's really what this is theater. But we'll talk about it. We'll talk about the end, and we'll actually watch the video that they watched, the selectively edited video from the January 6th Select Committee. We'll go over some of that, and we'll give you a chance to go back and talk a bit about that as well. In other news, Nicholas Cruz is spared the death penalty. That is right. He will not be put to death. Although DeSantis says he probably should have been. So we'll go over that. The juror that allowed him to live and what that means for the rest of the world. Let's see. What else do we have here? Matthew McConaughey, in a brief moment of clarity, goes after both parties in an op-ed. We'll look at the op-ed and we'll say, hey, is he actually going after both parties, or is he still saying, hey, be a Democrat, be a lot cooler if you did? And the Supreme Court is set to hear a case that could raise the price of pork. It is going to be all of this and more. Plus, I've got the names of everybody who chatted in the live chat this week, and I can say thank you to them as well over here on Contemporary. So get your live chats in today, because we will also go over some of your live chats today. Welcome back to midterm season. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. We have got a lot to go over here today. This is going to be an interesting day. Not a lot of news stories other than what we have going on. All the news, all the stuff we had left over from the last week, rather. Not a lot of new news stories, but the ones that we did add new are very dense. And yes, there's a 7-minute clip that I have up on the stack ready to go. So we'll be going over that. We'll be watching that. In its majority, I will decide at what point I can't do this anymore and pop off of that. But usually I won't take a video clip if it's that close to 10 minutes long. But for what they're going to do for the narrative, they're going to try to jack down your throat as hard as they can. I think it's relevant, so we will be going over that one. Producer's discretion. It was Pepe's fault. But that's what we have going on over here at Contemporary. Before we get started, make sure you guys go check out great programming such as the Daily Ignoramus, the Breakdown with Breckenhoff, the R-Rated Conservative, the Porch Boys. Go check out Tweets by Brit, KTZed over on the Twitter side if you enjoy that kind of political dunking. And both of those women are very good at that. Go check out Mr. Behavior, PJ Patriot, and the No Gimmicks podcast if you are interested in getting news by the common man for the common man. And let's get into finance and let's get started. Having a look at the Dow to start with on the morning. The Dow miraculously went up yesterday. It did hit a new 52-week low, but I don't know if this is a bunch of honking because some people in the party went back and said, hey man, we can't have this below 30,000 here before we go into the midterms, so just buy, man, come on. But we did hit a new 52-week low of 28,660.94, so deep into bear market territory. But it did mysteriously, with a core CPI and a consumer price index jumping up well above what they expected them to be. With both of those things on deck and the Fed getting ready to raise the rate another 0.75 and joblessness starting to go up, everyone still looked at this and said, this is a buy opportunity. I don't know why or how. I wouldn't, but this is not official financial advice, of course. But that's what we see coming for that. Looking in at the Bitcoin, which had a pretty significant spike throughout the day. It looks like it went up throughout the day yesterday too, but on today's Bitcoin market, yeah, we've had a significant spike, and another one is looking like it's starting to form here. Bring this back out to the 5-day. From where we hit the bottom yesterday, it spiked once, it spiked twice, and it's working on a third. So those of you who bought Bitcoin while it's on sale may make out like bandits here, and hey, maybe we're all wrong here on this finance thing and everything else is going to start looking good. It sure is looking that way right now, but I don't know how much I buy that or how much money people actually have in their pockets. We will see. We'll continue to watch this. Let's look at the gas prices. Going around the Madison area, right before we get into midterms. We have 376 at the Exxon on the east side, 360 at both Quick Trips on both the east and west side, 380 we're down to on the Isthmus, down from 390 yesterday. 379 at the BP out on the further east side, which I believe I remember correctly was also down. That was the outlier before. 380 at the Speedway out on the west side. And the BP on the other side of the Isthmus is also at 380. So we're looking at a little bit of a mixed bag all the way around the city here. They're holding this somewhat steady at this point, so we'll see what happens with the prices, with the oil cuts. I do think that's going to hit the markets before the midterms hit, so it'll be up to state leaders, especially in swing states. Now, I tell from people like you, my wonderful audience here, that you are starting to see some of your gas prices start to go up a little bit. And I do believe that that's absolutely a possibility, given the fact that, we're looking at things like the Saudis going up. However, manipulations of gas tax and probably some backroom deals with certain producers to help keep things low, I'd be able to see something like that coming out of swing state governments like my own. Like, hey, don't let this go up any further because we've got a midterm to win. And we'll find a way to overlook the taxes that we promised that we're going to go after the billionaire gas companies for if you just do this for us. That's the kind of backroom dealing I could see. And it does help the people of Wisconsin. I do understand that. But it also means that we've got the possibility to be absolutely punched in the face in the middle of winter next year. So we'll see what happens with that and where that goes. Let's see what IBD has to say for the morning. Dow futures rise on UK news after stocks surge from bear market lows. United Health, JP Morgan report. We'll be talking about JP Morgan later in the show from Ed Carson. Dow futures were little changed Friday along with the S&P and the NASDAQ futures. Dow giants United Health and JP Morgan Chase headlined key earnings before the open, while the UK government appears to set to scale back its budget plans. The stock market plunged on Thursday morning on a hot CPI inflation report, but then roared back. The Dow surged more than 1,300 points from the bear market intraday lows. The 10-year Treasury yield slashed gains after skyrocketing about 4% to a 13-year high. Honk honk. However, it's just one good day. Investors should still be on the sidelines, but looking for potential new leaders. There's an argument that the market couldn't really bottom until Tesla, the biggest and most followed high-growth stock, breaks down. It's far too early to say if the market or Tesla have bottomed out, but on Thursday, Tesla tumbled to just undercut its May lows before quickly rebounding. Meanwhile, mega caps Apple, Microsoft, and Alphabet staged outside bullish key reversals. Not only did they exceed the prior day's highs and lows, they engulfed the weekly range. Microsoft and Google are on the IBD long-term leaders. And it's earnings season, so we get to go through the list of who did what. United Health kicked off health insurer earnings Friday with better than expected third quarter earnings and revenue. The Dow giant also raised full year EPS views largely on the quarter 3 beat. And with all the honk new jobs being formed, I'm actually not completely surprised by that one. UNH edged higher before the open. United Health has been trending lower and isn't leading its group, but its relative strength line is right at highs. Be cautious on that one, not official financial advice. Shares hit their lowest level in nearly 4 months on Thursday before rebounding to take their 200-day line. United Health earnings and guidance Could somebody help me out on that grammatically? United Health earnings and guidance is B important for rivals, including Cigna. Maybe, could be, I don't know, but is B, I have no idea. JP Morgan Chase topped quarter 3 views early Friday along with Wells Fargo and Citigroup. Morgan Stanley slightly missed on EPS amid plunging investment banking revenue. JP Morgan and Wells edged higher before the open, while Citi fell slightly. MS stock declined modestly. JP Morgan, Citigroup, Wells, and Morgan Stanley bounced on Thursday, but are around bear market lows amid tough economic conditions. Yeah, well, one of the things that makes them money is people taking out loans, and at 7, 8, 10% interest, who's taking out a loan right now? Other than the government. On the futures, Dow futures rose 0.2 versus fair value, off morning highs. The S&P tilted higher and the Nasdaq edged lower. The 10-year yield fell 7 points to 3.88. Bond yields fell and stock futures got some support on UK news. The Bank of England is set to end recent emergency bond buying on Friday. That comes as the new British government is set to scuttle much of the tax cut and budget plan that roiled the British pound in gilts. Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng resigned on Friday morning, with PM Liz Truss set to hold a press conference at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, so right about now. People's Bank of China Governor Yi Gang said overnight that the central bank will provide more economic support, emphasizing infrastructure. Crude oil futures fell 2%. Remember, overnight action, Dow futures and elsewhere, doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. So, we have a dose of news and earnings coming in here. Some of them look good, some of them look really bad. We'll see what happens with that. And the other part of the financial news comes from the gas prices. And this transitions us perfectly into politics. This is the thing they're trying to hide when we talk about the next thing we're going to be talking about here. From the New York Post. White House cops to pushing Saudi Arabia to postpone oil cuts after midterms. From Caitlin Doornbos. The Biden admin admitted Thursday it had asked Saudi Arabia to delay the OPEC Plus vote to cut oil production until the cartel's next meeting after the midterm elections. We presented Saudi Arabia with an analysis to show that there was no market basis to cut production targets, and that they could easily wait for the next OPEC meeting to see how things developed, John Kirby said in a statement. The Riyadh-led group of oil producers' next meeting is scheduled for December 4th, according to the OPEC website. Kirby also alleged that other OPEC member nations communicated to us privately that they also disagreed with the Saudi decision but felt coerced to support Saudi's direction. The White House was responding to a Wednesday night statement from the Saudi Foreign Ministry hitting back at the Washington accusation that it had taken sides with Russia in Moscow's war against Ukraine. The ministry insisted the move by OPEC Plus to reduce production by 2 million barrels per day beginning next month was made purely in economic context. Alright, so there are two sides to this. First, we have the statement here, which I'm actually going to bring out here to the Posobiec tweet and open that up so we can see the entire... No, I'm not going to open it up so we can see the entire thing in its entirety. In fact, we'll scroll down and read it. So this is what the Saudis had to say. An official at the Foreign Ministry in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia stated that the government of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has viewed the statements issued about the kingdom following the OPEC Plus decision announced on October 5th, 2022, which have described the decision the kingdom taking sides in international conflicts, that it was politically motivated against the United States of America. The government of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia would first like to express its total rejection of these statements that are not based on facts, which are based on portraying the OPEC Plus decision out of its purely economic context. This decision was taken unanimously by all member states of the OPEC Plus group. The kingdom affirms that the outcomes of the OPEC Plus meetings are adopted through consensus among member states and that they are not based on unilateral decisions by a single country. These outcomes are based purely on economic considerations that take into account maintaining balance of supply and demand in the oil markets, as well as aim to limit volatility that does not serve the interest of consumers and producers, as has been always the case within OPEC Plus. The OPEC Plus group makes its decisions independently in accordance with established independent practices followed by the international organizations. The government of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia would also like to clarify that based on its belief in the importance of dialogue and exchange of views with its allies and partners outside the OPEC Plus group regarding the situation on the oil markets, the government of the kingdom, I keep wanting to say United Kingdom, because at this point in our world, when we talk about geopolitics, what kingdom do we usually talk about? The United one. Of the kingdom, clarified through its continuous consultation with the U.S. administration that all economic analyses indicate that postponing the OPEC Plus decision for a month, according to what has been suggested, would have had negative economic consequences. The government of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia affirms that the attempts to distort the facts about the kingdom's position regarding the crisis in Ukraine are unfortunate and will not change the kingdom's principled position, including its vote to support the UN resolutions regarding the Russian-Ukrainian crisis, based on the kingdom's position on the importance for all countries to adhere to the UN Charter principles of international law and the kingdom's rejection of any infringement on the sovereignty of countries over their territories. Sorry, that's a lot of words. The kingdom stresses that while it strives to preserve the strength of its relations with all friendly countries, it affirms the rejection of any dictates, actions, or efforts to distort its noble objectives to protect the global economy from the oil market volatility. Resolving economic challenges requires the establishment of a non-politicized, constructive dialogue, and to wisely and rationally consider what serves the interests of all countries. The kingdom affirms that it views its relationship with the United States of America as a strategic one that serves the common interest in both countries. The kingdom also stresses the importance of building on the solid pillars upon which the Saudi-U.S. relationship has stood over the past 8 decades. These pillars include mutual respect, enhancing common interests, actively contributing to preserve regional and international peace and security, countering terrorism and extremism, and achieving prosperity for the peoples of the region. Signed by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, 13 October 2022. 17 Rabiul Awal 1444. Now, what does this mean? First off, I don't believe it. I don't actually believe that this is entirely due to the fact that everybody is just coming out here saying, oh no, 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 no. We actually love each other, and we're just doing this for the benefit of ourselves and the benefits of the United States. Don't believe that for a second. I do believe that Saudi Arabia, pressuring on the other groups, has forced the production cuts that we are set to see. Why? Because it's the perfect strategic move for them to do so. Has Saudi Arabia taken sides in the Ukrainian war? Most likely. They're on paper allied with Russia. But mostly, one of the first actions that Biden took when he came into office was the fact that he had to condemn Mohammed bin Salman, the crown prince, over what happened to Jamal Khashoggi. Why? Oh, why would you not, especially if you hold their balls in the palm of your hand, why would you not squeeze a little bit given the fact that that was the first thing that the president did in office. First, cut the energy sector, so he depended on you, and then tell you you were a piece of crap for what you did to Jamal Khashoggi. If I was Mohammed bin Salman, you better believe I would be doing that. I am that petty. I'm going to stand here and admit it. I am that petty. But of course, they do have to come back out and save face and say, oh no, we do this because this is going to be beneficial to our country and our alliance and everything else. And we love United States. Don't worry. We love you. So, do prepare for your gas prices to go up right before the midterms. So we see a potential rising in gas prices. We haven't seen a rise yet, at least not here. But we see a potential of rising gas prices. We see 8.3% inflation on top of 5.6% inflation from the year before. And what is it that the news media wants you to focus on? Well, let's read from Boston 25 News. January 6th committee votes to subpoena Trump. Look over here. No. No, forget about all those. Oh, forget about your wallet. Look over here, everybody. I want to admit, I knew that the January 6th committee was going on, and I was still surprised when I'm like, oh, they're actually talking about this? Oh yeah, that's right, that was actually going on. From Teresa Seeger, Cox Media Group National Content Desk. The House Unselect Committee investigating the January 6th selfie fest on the U.S. Capitol on Thursday voted to issue a subpoena to the former president. We're obligated to seek answers directly from the man who set all this in motion. And while every American is entitled to those answers, so we can act now to protect our republic, she said, 18 days before we go to the polls. Liz Cheney of Wyoming said while offering a resolution to seek documents and testimony from Trump. The 9-member committee voted unanimously in favor of subpoenaing Trump. Oh my God, unanimous? Are you kidding? No, they all agreed that the person that they hate, they want that person down in front of them? Oh my God, it's so unanimous. The committee's vice chairwoman, Liz Cheney, said that the committee spoke with more than 30 witnesses who invoked their Fifth Amendment rights against self-incrimination, many specifically in response to questions about their dealings with Donald Trump directly. Right, but you were still able to selectively edit it and cut and make a little narrative video instead of actually going with the truth. And we've got the video of them voting. Crucify him! Let's watch.
A recorded vote is requested. The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Cheney.
Aye.
Ms. Cheney, aye. Ms. Lofgren.
Aye.
Ms. Lofgren, aye. Mr. Schiff.
Aye.
Mr. Schiff, aye. Mr. Aguilar.
Aye.
Mr. Aguilar, aye. Mrs. Murphy.
Aye.
Mrs. Murphy, aye. Mr. Raskin.
Aye.
Mr. Raskin, aye. Mrs. Luria.
Aye.
Mrs. Luria, aye. Mr. Kinzinger.
Kinzinger, aye.
Mr. Kinzinger, aye. Mr. Chairman.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, aye.
The clerk will report the vote.
Mr. Chairman, on this vote, there are 9 ayes and 0 noes.
The resolution is agreed to. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid on the table. The chair requests that those in the hearing room remain seated until the Capitol Police have escorted members from the room. Without objection, the committee stands adjourned.
We have to have a Capitol Police escort us out of here because somebody in the crowd might be a Trump supporter, you know. Updated 3:30. Liz Cheney, who serves as vice chairwoman of the House Select Committee, on Thursday offered a motion to subpoena Trump. We have sufficient information to consider criminal referrals for multiple individuals and to recommend a range of legislative proposals to guard against another January 6th, she said. But the key task remains. We must seek the testimony under oath of January 6th central player. I wonder how much red yarn that they used for all this. Like, you could just picture Liz Cheney out there with a cigarette in one hand explaining to you how, this bank over here is connected to Donald Trump Jr., who had relations with Kim Guilfoyle, who somehow has been in Donald Trump's office. And this is the reason that we had January. Like, crap like that. Benny Thompson acknowledged that subpoenaing a former president is a serious and extraordinary action that you've been yelling about since the beginning of this. And, by the way, it's not an accident that they waited out till the end of this. Nobody gave a damn about this committee. At this point, again, not a lot of people even remember that it was going on, and they didn't even bother to come back and do this at prime time, because now they can go back and give you out the little selectively edited clips for this. So, you want to bet that the testimony is going to be on prime time, though? You want to bet? A couple reasons for this. Number one, I don't believe there's going to be any sort of criminal referral for this. But what this does is, what do we know about Trump? What did we see from the beginning of the first debates and the first campaigns? That is a person who sucks all the air out of the room. Which means, and this is what I've been saying from the beginning, if you're talking about Trump, you're not talking about anything else. Typically, and yes, I admit that we're going to be watching a 7-minute clip of what happened on that day. The way that they wanted to show it, not what actually happened, but a 7-minute clip of what happened that day. When you're talking about Trump, you don't talk about the rising inflation, the rising gas prices. You don't talk about the fact that the dementia-addled president of the United States shook his fists in front of 2 Marines in a blood-red background and screamed that it was time to exterminate all the cockroaches that voted against him. You don't talk about any of that stuff because one thing, and they use that to their advantage, they act like it's the worst thing in the world, but they use it to their advantage, is they can use that to cover up for all of their other failings. And again, I use my own newscast as an example here. What has typically happened, and part of the reason that I don't really talk about him anymore, is when we had the first January 6th Select Committee, in the midst of inflation reaching 8%, by the way. That was happening in the same month. In the midst of the Roe debate. In the midst of the gas prices hitting $5 a gallon when we were talking about the January 6th committee again. What did we talk about when there was a committee, or when they did the Mar-a-Lago raid is the other one? What did we talk about for the whole episode? We talked about Trump. And I will admit, I have shied away from Trump news. One of the things with being an independent newscaster is we don't have to go back out and try to beg NBC for more money based on our ratings. I can cover what I want, and I think that, honestly, because I'm doing a newscast by the common man for the common man, and my tagline always is the people who make the same decisions you have to make, is the fact that, yes, we are looking at a situation where it costs twice as much to put food in your refrigerator right now, and twice as much to put gas in your vehicle. But typically, again, when you talk Trump, that's your entire show, because everybody's got to go run in on it. NBC's got an article, CNN's got an article, Fox has got an article, and sometimes they actually counter what MSNBC and CNN have to say. So, you are 20 days from going to the polls. I think it's more. I think it's 24. 25. You're 25 days from going to the polls. I had to do some mental math there. You're 25 days out from going out to pull the lever for whoever you want to for your congressional representation. Now, do these people, the Liz Cheneys, the Benny Thompsons, the Adam Kinzingers, do they want you to go out there and think about the fact that it costs you double? It costs you $50 to feed just yourself at the grocery store, and if you've got kids, I'm sorry, there's probably a 2 in front of that number, and it's 3 digits wide. And that's just for a week of stuff. Do they want you thinking about that, or do they want you thinking about, evil Orange Man tried to overthrow the Capitol, and look at all these people that he endorsed that you're voting for? So, that's what they have for that. An interesting aside to this, from Insider, Trump wants to testify to the January 6th committee, but only if they broadcast it live, the New York Times reports. Yeah, it was the same kind of thing that they did with the Ginny Thomas testimony. Part of the reason that we haven't seen a Ginny Thomas testimony is the fact that a lot of these people said, we don't want to do this with pre-recording because you'll twist our words. We want to do this live. And they seem very averse to this. I don't know if they would go for this. Honestly. That's like 6 of one, half a dozen or other for where the benefit could be for the January 6th Selfie Fest committee. From Tom Porter. Don't worry, Arvolt, I have coffee. Former President Trump has told aides that he might comply with the subpoena to testify before the January 6th committee as long as he can do so live, the New York Times' Maggie Haberman reported. According to Haberman, Trump has told aides he's not opposed to the idea of testifying before the committee as long as it's on his terms. The information was contributed by Haberman to the Times live coverage of Thursday's committee hearing. See, I would have believed this too, and this actually seems like this would make sense, except for that one name, Maggie Haberman. I don't know if I buy that or not anymore. Some of his aides appear not to be enthusiastic about the idea. He should not, a Trump advisor bluntly told the Daily Beast. No Trump advisor spoke to the Daily Beast. I don't believe that either. Most witnesses testified behind closed doors, with the committee presenting clips prepared in advance to play in the live hearings to give you the narrative that they want, not necessarily the story that the people actually told. And by the way, I would not be opposed to watching every minute of video from the recorded depositions to see just how much the narrative actually goes with the presented narrative. How much the actual story goes in line with what they presented to us. Those with particularly notable testimony, i.e. the people who got paid off to say what the committee wanted, such as former White House aide Cassidy Hutchinson, testified live after initially submitting evidence in private, knowing full well that she would never have to look down under cross. If Trump testified, he would have to do so under oath, risking perjury charges if he were to lie, which of course, what they're going to do is they're going to try to lead him into something where he can either not answer or where he could just put a little bit of a lie in there, then they just say, oh, well, perjury! Believe you me, they're not doing this because they think this is going to reveal some bombshell about what's going to happen, or about what happened on January 6th. They're doing this because they've got nothing and they're going to try to stick him on perjury. And also the political theater of, oh, well, look, it's Trump. Forget about the 8.3% inflation that you have month over month. That right there is actually probably the most important paragraph of this entire article. It's a perjury trap. In a series of live hearings in recent months, the committee has argued that Trump was central to the plot to overturn his election defeat in 2020. This culminated in the chaos on January 6th when his supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol in a bid to halt Joe Biden's certification as president. He is required to answer for his actions. Benny Thompson, a Mississippi Democrat who chairs the committee, said in an announcement announcing the subpoena at Thursday's hearing. Trump has repeatedly characterized the committee as a partisan witch hunt. I mean, where's the lie? While continuing to praise the rioters and push the election fraud conspiracy theories that inspired them. In a Truth Social post on Thursday, he described the committee as a giant scam presided over by a group of radical left losers and 2 failed Republicans. They're the worst. Okay, they failed. Some analysts expect Trump to challenge the subpoena in courts, a process that could take months, which would also actually probably be advantageous. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, that's going to be advantageous for him to challenge it. Now, the January 6th committee wants him to testify before the midterms. For obvious reasons. They want to get him on camera taking the fifth, so they can put that in campaign ads before they start sending people out to the polls. But I'm going to tell you right off the bat, if this takes until January, there might not be a January 6th Select Committee. So, we'll see what happens with that. Some more on the committee here. The Hill's Morning Report, January 6th Committee makes closing argument against Trump. From Alexis Simendinger and Christina Karish. Oh guys, no, we don't know who Ray Epps is. The House panel investigating the events of January 6 used new and previously known evidence on Thursday to allege that former President Trump pursued a plan to try to overturn the 2020 election, knowing he lost his bid for re-election, but then encouraged a mob to attack the Capitol in an unlawful bid to cling to power. If in its ninth and possibly final public presentation before the committee disbands at the end of this Congress, lawmakers released the new details about the Trump admin's ties to white supremacists, Trump's influence over his most fervent supporters, and his eagerness to join thousands of backers he knew were armed on a march to the Capitol to block his election defeat. Oh yeah, that's right, because didn't he reach through a bulletproof glass window and yank a steering wheel and try to kill a Secret Service agent? Funny, they never got those agents in there to testify. The damning narrative presented less than a month before the midterm elections. Damning. Yeah, with no cross. Damning. Adds fuel to the Democrats' warnings that Trump and his GOP allies who continue to push false claims of a stolen election pose a continuing threat to democracy. Yeah, it's all theater. But if you want theater, here we go. This is an 8-minute clip, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to stomach getting through the entire thing. But, according to NBC, the January 6th committee shows video footage of congressional leaders pleading for help during the attack. So, without further ado, this is what NBC wants you to believe about what happened on that day.
Were taken to a secure location during the riot. You'll see how everyone involved was working actively to stop the violence, to get federal law enforcement deployed to the scene, to put down the violence and secure the Capitol complex. Not just Democrats like Speaker Nancy Pelosi and House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer, but Republicans like Vice President Pence, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Majority Whip John Thune, and countless other appointees across the administration. All of them did what President Trump was not doing, what he simply refused to do. Take a listen.
We're starting to get surrounded. They're taking the north front scaffolding. Unless we get more munitions, we're not going to be able to hold.
The door has been breached and people are gaining access into the Capitol.
We have got to finish the proceedings or else it will have a complete victory.
Senator Schumer is at a secure location and they're locked down in the Senate.
There has to be some way we can maintain the sense that people have that there's some security or some confidence that government can function and that we can elect the President of the United States. Did we go back into session?
We did go back into session, but now apparently everybody on the floor is putting on tear gas masks to prepare for a breach. Well, I'm trying to get more information.
They're putting on their
Tear gas masks.
I can't.
We need an area for the House members. They're all walking over now through the tunnels.
I'm going to call up the effing Secretary of DOD. We have some senators who are still in their hideaways. They need massive...
Hold on. Hold on. We got to back that up. Did he say effing on camera? Really? I thought that was an editorial decision that they made. No, this is theater. I'm telling you right now. This is absolutely theater.
We need an area for the House members. They're all walking over now through the tunnels.
I'm going to call up the effing Secretary of DOD.
That's theater right there. Especially with a New Yorker. You know what he would have said. He's not... This is either recorded after the fact or this was... He knew what's going on here. He knew he was going to be sitting in front of an NBC camera. No, there's no way. There is no way. In the heat of the moment, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I might have actually bought this if we'd have seen a bleep out. Well, of course, they wouldn't have had to cover up his face because, you know, the mask. But are you kidding me? No. I don't buy it right then and there.
We have some senators who are still in their hideaways. They need massive personnel now. Can you get the Maryland National Guard to come too?
I have something to say, Mr. Secretary. I'm going to call the mayor of Washington, D.C. right now and see what other outreach he...
Yes, look right at the camera, Nancy. Yeah, look, no, directly at the camera when you say that, oh, yeah, no, I'm going to call the mayor of D.C., you know, right here, right in the camera.
Has other police departments, as Senator Leader Hoyer has mentioned.
Get him up! Get him in! Officer down! Get him up! Get him up! Hold up! Get him up!
Hi, Governor. This is Nancy. Governor, I don't know if you have been approached about the Virginia National Guard. Mr. Hoyer was speaking to Governor Hogan. But I still think you probably need the okay of the federal government in order to come into another jurisdiction.
And one of the things that I'm hearing about this is she's so calm under fire. It kind of seems to me like she knows that she's in absolutely no danger.
Thank you.
Secretary of the Army.
Oh my gosh. They're just breaking windows. They're doing all kinds of... It's really... They said somebody was shot. It's just horrendous, and all at the instigation of the President of the United States. Okay, thank you, Governor. I appreciate what you're doing. And
Did you catch that? Let's back that one up just a little bit there.
Horrendous, and all at the instigation of the President of the United States.
There is no possible way that you knew that. You were in chamber while the speech was being given. There is no possible way that that is either admissible or that you knew that was going on. None. Zero.
United States. Okay, thank you, Governor. I appreciate what you're doing, and if you don't mind, I'd like to stay in touch. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Virginia Guard has been called in.
You know, I'm just talking to Governor Northam, and what he said is they sent 200 state police and a unit of the National Guard. They're breaking windows and going in, obviously ransacking our offices and all the rest of that. That's nothing. The concern we have about personal safety is it just transcends everything. But the fact is, on any given day, they're breaking the law in many different ways.
Why is there a red X on the couch? So was this, were they planning to actually have a big conference in here, and this was their blocking area where okay, well, here's your sit. Why is there a red X on that couch?
And quite frankly, much of it at the instigation of the President of the United States. And now, if he could at least somebody.
Yeah, why don't you get the President to tell them to leave the Capitol, Mr. Attorney General, in your law enforcement responsibility? A public statement, they should all leave. This cannot be just we're waiting for so-and-so. We need them there now, whoever you got.
You also have troops. This is Steny Hoyer. Troops.
Okay, so we have a little bit of time to make that decision.
Andrews Air Force Base.
All right.
Other military bases.
Thank you.
We need active duty National Guard.
How soon in the future can you have the place evacuated, cleaned out?
I don't want to speak for the leadership that's going to be responsible for executing the operation, so I'm not going to say that because they are on the ground and they're the
Well, just pretend for a moment it was the Pentagon or the White House or some other entity that was under siege. And let me say, you can logistically get people there as you make the plan. We're trying to figure out how we can get this job done today. We talked to Mitch about it earlier. He's not in the room right now, but he was with us earlier and said, we want to expedite this, and hopefully they could confine it to just one complaint, Arizona, and then we could vote, and that would be, then just move forward with the rest of the state. The overriding wish is to do it at the Capitol. What we are being told very directly is it's going to take days for the Capitol to be okay again. We've gotten a very bad report about the condition of the House floor with defecation and all that kind of thing as well. I don't think that that's hard to clean up, but I do think it is more from a security standpoint.
So why are we, number one, why are we talking about clean up right now when you're apparently all in fear of your life? And here's the next question, now that we talk about the defecation. Did the guy crapping in the hall, was that planned? Because this is supposed to be in the midst of what's going on here. You haven't been out into the hall, but I'm sure that there's maybe some intelligence that went off at there, but you seem pretty like, we know that there's defecation in the hall. Was one of the agitators paid to go crap in the hall? Is that what's happening here?
Point of making sure that everybody is out of the building, and how long will that take? I just got off with the Vice President.
And I got off with the Vice President-elect. So I'll tell you.
Okay. But what we left the conversation with, because he said he had the impression from Mitch that Mitch wants to get everybody back to do it there.
Yes.
I said, well, we're getting a counterpoint that is, we could take time to clean up the poo-poo that they're making all over them, literally and figuratively in the Capitol, and that it may take days to get back.
And I'm at the Capitol building. I'm literally standing with the chief of police of the U.S. Capitol Police. He just informed me what you will hear through official channels. Paul Irving, your sergeant at arms, will inform you that their best information is that they believe that the House and the Senate will be able to reconvene in roughly an hour.
Good news.
Oh, an hour.
About the process for for getting members back in the building.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President. Good news.
This morning, a new twist.
Yeah, no, we don't care about the. So, I don't buy a second of that video. The look at the camera really got me. The Schumer saying effing in front of the camera when this is supposed to be some high stakes thing. No. I don't buy a word of this. A guy from the Bronx, from the East Coast, who just instinctively knows that I'm in front of a camera and I can't say the F word. No, screw you. Nope. Don't buy it. Don't buy a word of it. But they're going to keep telling you that this is what happened. Well, we actually watched the whole thing. I surprised myself. All right, what else do we have? On the other side of the aisle, congressional Republicans outraged by the Biden admin using the FBI to wage open war on pro-life activists. From Brandon Dre. Nearly 40 congressional Republicans sent a letter on Wednesday to the FBI expressing deep concern over the rise in high-profile investigations into pro-life Americans since the overturning of Roe v. Wade last summer. Such investigations have raised well-founded concerns that the FBI has amassed too much power and has become a partisan cudgel wielded by the Biden admin at the behest of the progressive activists against political opponents and dissenters, the letter reads. Yeah, you know, like that thing that they swore up and down that evil Donald Trumpler was going to do? A letter written by Chip Roy and signed by House and Senate lawmakers lays out demands for transparency and data on the Bureau's enforcement of the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act, which prohibits threatening or using physical force to intimidate a person seeking an abortion. I'm outraged by the Biden admin's open war on pro-life activists and weaponization of federal law enforcement against the patriotic Americans for their belief. Chip Roy told Fox News Digital in a statement, "This admin has a lot of explaining to do when it's protecting one's own child means armed FBI agents at the door." Republican politicians accused the FBI and the DOJ of failing to investigate and prosecute pro-abortionists who have allegedly attacked or vandalized more than 72 pregnancy resource centers and 80 Catholic churches since the Dobbs leak in May. The letter states such heinous, violent, or organized crimes across state lines should be subject to persecution under the FACE Act, which prohibits damage or destruction to abortion facilities, pregnancy centers, and houses of worship. Among the dozens of cases the letter cites, Republican leaders point to the arrest of pro-life activist Mark Houck at his own home, charges pressed against Franciscan monk Dr. Fidelis Moskinski, and FBI agents questioning pro-life activists outside a Planned Parenthood facility in Minnesota. These abuses of federal power against pro-life Americans based solely on their beliefs undermines the American people's trust in the FBI, the letter reads. Well, you shouldn't have had trust in that agency to begin with. Did you know the FBI actually doesn't have a mandate to exist? The FBI was a temporary investigative unit that was incepted during Prohibition to go after tax revenue cheats under Prohibition, and was only supposed to be used by that point. But it's another one of those things. They made an agency in a state of emergency, and then they just keep re-upping the emergency over and over again. Almost every crime that you are supposed to face justice for is supposed to be done at a municipal level. Even some of the state level stuff is probably outside the original framers' vision of the United States. Although with automobile traffic, the ability for you to commit crimes in various other parts of the state and be investigated as such has become much easier. So I can understand we're state level, but yeah, under the founding, you were only supposed to be tried at a municipal level by a jury of your peers. County possibly, but a bunch of people just like you in your state, in your area, that still have to look at you at the end of things rather than a bunch of faceless bureaucrats. You're only supposed to be arrested by people who are that close to you, people you have to see in the grocery store. The laws that apply directly to you and not too indirectly to you by interstate commerce are supposed to be made by people that you have to see every day as you go through the town square. According to the letter co-signers, included House of Representatives Reps Chris Smith, Bob Good, Andy Biggs, Randy Weber, Louis Gohmert, Mary Miller, Jeff Duncan, Michael Cloud, Andrew Clyde, Daniel Webster, Debbie Lesko, Andy Harris, Bill Posey, Ralph Norman, Doug Lamborn, Ronnie Jackson, Glenn Grothman, Dan Bishop, Jody Heiss, Paul Gosar, Lauren Boebert, Brian Babin, Jim Banks, and Randy Feenstra. Senators who signed on include Senators Lee, Marshall, Rubio, Tillis, Daines, Cotton, Risch, Braun, Crapo, and Cruz. But they're not doing anything. They're not committing war on pro-life activists. Well, we read the one article already, and I've had another one floating on the stack for a few days, so Mia Cathell with the video first. Quote tweeting herself when Cathell says 11 pro-life activists have been indicted by Biden's DOJ for protesting outside an abortion clinic in Tennessee. Meet the Christian Mimas and Pawpaws charged as co-conspirators now facing up to 11 years in federal prison for a peaceful blockade demonstration. Look at all these hardened criminals out here. And we will watch the video. 137. One of the pro-life leaders targeted by Biden's DOJ sent me footage of the early morning FBI raid on his family home. Paul Vaughn was placed in handcuffs by armed FBI agents in front of his children just before school drop-off. Watch as his wife pleads for answers mid-arrest. Let's watch.
But if you're not going to let me, then I'll just...
No, I want to know why you were banging on my door with a gun. You're not going to tell me anything?
I tried.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
You did not try. This is not acceptable. Can I have your name? You're not going to give me your name? You're not going to give me any information?
Listen to those EVs go, man. So, unfortunately, where the video cuts into, we don't know what the context is of what was actually happening before and what was tried to, what it is that the FBI agents allegedly tried to say. And we're not going to get any answers out of this either. I've got one from the Blaze as well, and I wonder if this is the same video. Yeah, it's the exact same video, actually. But let's read FBI agents with guns drawn reportedly raid pro-life activist home with his traumatized children present. From Paul Saka. FBI agents conducted a raid of pro-life activist homes in Tennessee on Wednesday, according to a video recorded by his wife. At the time of the FBI raid, the pro-life activist was reportedly about to take his 7 children to school. Props, man. 7? Props. Paul Vaughn is one of the 11 pro-life activists charged with violations of the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act for engaging in a protest at an abortion clinic in March of 2021. The DOJ accused the defendants of blocking access to the Carafem abortion clinic in Mount Juliet, Tennessee. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of surprised that I've been to Mount Juliet, that there's an abortion clinic there, that they usually put those in really, really poor, run-down areas. They don't typically put those in the affluent areas. 7 of the pro-life activists, including Vaughn, were charged with conspiracy against rights secured by the FACE Act and committing FACE Act violations, which is punishable by up to 11 years and $250,000 in fines. Boy, they don't want you to screw with their ability to get their child sacrifices, do they? Vaughn's wife reportedly captured video of the aggressive arrest that happened in their home around 7:20 a.m. on Wednesday. Video shows 4 armed FBI agents at the Vaughn residence. There was no effort to bring him in voluntarily, Gualberto Garcia Jones, an attorney for Personhood Alliance, told the Daily Caller. They show up unannounced at around 0700. They were banging on the door so loud that it made the whole house shake, and once they did that, he came out. He was actually on his way to take 7 of his children to school. The FBI agents, all 4 of them, had their weapons drawn. 2 of them had long guns. 2 of them had sidearms. They were very, very, very aggressive. But once his wife took out the phone, they immediately changed their demeanor. Well, yeah, and I'd kind of like to see what the demeanor was beforehand. Unfortunately, all that we have for that is hearsay. It's believable because it's the FBI, but it is still hearsay and it wouldn't stand up in court. Paul Vaughn told Town Hall that 3 of his children were in the backyard when an FBI agent armed with a rifle questioned them. One child was crying and allegedly says, "The FBI is here, they're arresting Daddy." Vaughn's wife notes, "They traumatized me and my children intentionally. We will never forget this." That's kind of the point. Don't you ever protest in front of anything, because we might show up. That's the point of them doing this like this, so you're scared to ever walk against the law again. Video shows the wife confronting the FBI agents, asking why her husband was arrested and demanding the agents to identify themselves. "I want to know why you were banging on my door with a gun," Vaughn's wife said to an FBI agent in the video. "You're not going to tell me anything?" "I tried, ma'am." "No, you didn't. You did not try." She approaches another agent armed with a rifle and asks for his identification. He completely ignores her. Vaughn was reportedly whisked away in one of 2 unmarked SUVs on the property. The family said they never received official information about Vaughn's whereabouts for 6 hours after the arrest. He was taken into a federal holding facility about 60 miles from his home. For over 6 hours, no one knew where I was and why I was kidnapped from my home at gunpoint. It took a good attorney 6 hours to be able to break through the bureaucracy and find the people who knew what was going on, Vaughn told Town Hall. And this is, by the way, what I continually hear about FBI. I've heard this from a couple people that I know that have been picked up by the FBI. That they don't tell you where they're taking you. They just come in and they take all your stuff and then you never see them again. They get disappeared. But it's an arm of the government, so that's what we have for that. What are we looking at for time? Oh, we got plenty of time yet. From the Daily Wire, alleged Waukesha Christmas parade killer mocks victims in court while demanding that the case be dismissed. By the way, there is not a lot of news on this, not even on the local channels. They don't want you thinking about this one. No video either. From Ryan Saavedra. The 40-year-old man who was accused of killing 6 and wounding dozens more when he allegedly ran them over last year at a Christmas parade in Waukesha demanded in court this week that his case be dismissed because there were no victims present to face him. The Daily Wire is not naming or showing photographs of the alleged killer due to company policy about not giving notoriety to those who allegedly carry out mass murder, as studies have suggested that media coverage of the events can have a significant impact on the psyches of those who carry out the atrocities. It often gives them attention that they crave. The suspect, who fired his public defenders and now represents himself, went on a 50-minute rant in court Thursday about why the case against him needed to be dismissed. Where's the injured party? Is the injured party present in court right now? The suspect fumed. Can anyone make a claim against me? Can you make a claim against me, Your Honor? Do you know if anyone can make a claim against me, Your Honor? Can anyone right now in court make a claim against me? And because of that, Your Honor, the motion to dismiss should be granted on that alone. There is no injured party in this matter, so who makes the claim? Who? The alleged killer is accused of driving his red Ford Escape into the crowd gathered to watch the Waukesha annual Christmas parade on November 21st, 2021, ramming into dozens of parade watchers and killing 6, including an 8-year-old boy. The defendant faces 76 felony and misdemeanor charges, including 6 counts of first-degree intentional homicide. The alleged killer complained in an interview late last year about how he was being treated after the attack, claiming he was being dehumanized and demonized. But unfortunately, I could not find video of this. I did do a little bit of a look. I guess I could have done more extensive. I thought the Daily Wire would actually have it because they're usually pretty good about that, but yeah, this guy is probably going down pretty hard. From Florida, Parkland trial, Nicholas Cruz spared death penalty, grieving parents react. From Emily Shapiro. Nicholas Cruz has been spared the death penalty and sentenced to life in prison by a Florida jury for carrying out the massacre at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School that claimed 17 lives. Cruz pleaded guilty last year to 17 counts of first-degree murder and 17 counts of attempted first-degree murder in connection to the February 14, 2018 killing of 14 students and 3 staff members at his former school. Among the victims were 15-year-old Peter Wang, an Army Junior Reserve officer, training Corps cadet who died while helping classmates escape, and 35-year-old Scott Beagle, a geography teacher who was shot dead while shepherding students to safety in his classroom. This penalty phase trial was to determine if Cruz would be sentenced to death or life in prison for the massacre he committed at age 19, which, given the fact that it took him 4 years to do so, means that he cannot sing that he turned 21 in prison doing life without parole. One of the jurors who voted not to sentence Nicholas to death detailed some of her experience in a handwritten letter to the judge. She wrote the letter in an effort to dispel alleged rumors that she always intended to vote against the death penalty. Another juror, her jurors who voted for the death penalty, saying that I had already made up my mind on voting for life before the trial started, she wrote, "This allegation is untrue, and I maintain my oath to the court that I would be fair and unbiased." The letter goes on to describe the jury deliberations as very tense, with the juror adding that some jurors became extremely unhappy once I mentioned that I would vote for life. 5:17 p.m., jury foreman not happy with how it worked out. Benjamin Thomas told ABC Miami affiliate WPLG that that he didn't vote for the life sentence. He's not happy with how it worked out. God damn, that looks good. Oh, you can't see that. Oh, you can see half of it. I do enjoy Duncan. But everyone has the right to decide for themselves. It is a moral decision on their own, Thomas said. Some of the jurors felt that it was an appropriate sentence. Thomas told other local media outlets that one juror felt Cruz was mentally ill and therefore should not be sentenced to death. One juror was a hard no when it came to the death penalty, and 2 more jurors ended up voting the same way, Thomas told reporters. So, Nicholas Cruz will spend the rest of his life in a Florida prison. I didn't know if Florida actually had a death penalty or not. It appears that it does because they were going back to decide off of this. I think that he may have deserved it. But we still need to ask the question of why it was that he was able to go in and buy this weapon when he was on the FBI radar. When he had so many complaints against him in the FBI itself. Like, I'm telling you right off the bat, if we go by US law, there was no reason that this kid should have been able to do this. And again, as always, what the question I always have is, where did he get the money for this brand new AR? Where did he suddenly get the money for a platform like that? I have a good job. I can't go run out and get one right now. So where do you get the money to go back out and get an AR on a whim? And go do this kind of thing? I still have a lot more questions about the Parkland shooting, and it's been 4 years. And we still don't have all the answers to this. The only good side about the fact that it's been 4 years is we only have to hear from one of the miserable morons who went clout chasing for fame after the school shooting. We don't have to listen to that weird bald chick anymore. Or what was it? Cameron Kasky was the other one? The only one we still have to listen to is David Hogg. Yeah, just one more law. One more law. DeSantis reacts. Parkland shooter who murdered 17 gets life, not death. DeSantis reacts. From Hank Berrien. And he's got a press conference. On Thursday, Florida Republican Governor Ron DeSantis reacted to the sentence handed out to the Parkland shooter who murdered 17, including 14 high school students, on Valentine's Day 2018. The jury deliberated less than 2 days before deciding the shooter should receive a life sentence without parole instead of the death penalty for the massacre at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. Let's listen.
I think that if you have a death penalty at all, that is a case where you're massacring those students with premeditation and utter disregard for basic humanity, that you deserve the death penalty. And so the jurors came back. Apparently it was 11-1 with one holdout refusing to authorize the ultimate punishment. And that means that this killer is going to end up getting a same sentence of people who've committed bad acts, but acts that did not rise to this level. I just don't think anything else is appropriate except a capital sentence in this case. And so I was very disappointed to see that. I'm also disappointed that we're 4.5 years after these killings, and we're just now getting this. You know, they used to do this. He would have been executed in 6 months. He's guilty. Everybody knew that from the beginning, and yet it takes years and years in this legal system that is not serving the interests of victims.
Do you ever wonder why I don't support Ron DeSantis? Right there. Now, in a case with Cruz here, you plead guilty, you come out and say, yes, I did this. I still don't think that you go out in front of the firing squad within 6 months. But given the railroading like we just saw with the FBI agents there, I've been pro-death penalty before. I'm at least entertaining the thought of being anti-death penalty lately. Because most people plead not guilty, and they go back to try to appeal and appeal and appeal over and over again. Because sometimes the state gets it wrong, and you can't unkill somebody once you kill them. You can let them out of prison if it's wrong. If your verdict is wrong, you can let them out of prison. You can come back out and say, "Hey, well, we're sorry. We'll give you something to go back and rehabilitate you." But you can't rehabilitate the dead. In a situation like this, I am more open to the death penalty because the kid pleaded guilty. He said, "Yes, I did it. Punish me." So, I don't know. But I mean, rest assured, the state's doing a good enough job of killing us as it is, so. This is review of the first ABC article, so we're going to skip over this one. And just a brief little snippet on what the juror was thinking when she did this. She couldn't do it. Parkland shooter jury foreman says one firmly rejected death sentence. From Brandon Dre. The foreman in the trial determining the fate of Parkland High School shooter who killed 17 on Valentine's Day 2018 said 3 of the 12 jurors opted for a life sentence in prison. The shooter, who the Daily Wire will not name, pleaded guilty to 17 counts of murder last year, which included 14 students as young as 14 years old and 3 staff members. But the Florida jury rejected the much-anticipated death sentence rather than receiving the majority vote for the death penalty. Benjamin Thomas, the jury foreman, told CBS Miami that one juror refused to vote in favor of executing the gunman because she believed that he had some form of mental illness. He did. You kind of want to get that out of the gene pool as quickly as possible. Her belief may have been why 2 more jurors ultimately voted with her. There was one with a hard no, she couldn't do it, and there was another 2 that ended up voting the same way, Thomas said, adding that the verdict to put the shooter in prison for life without parole disappointed him, but he respected the other jurors' choices. Despite his dissatisfaction with the vote, Thomas said that's how the jury system works. Everybody gets their vote, everyone gets to decide. We went through all the evidence, and some of the jurors felt that it was the appropriate sentence. According to Thomas, the jury concluded their decision on Wednesday, but some wanted to take the night to sleep on it before returning to court the following day. So, he gets life. From the Blaze, Democratic state lawmakers rewrite gun carry laws to require insurance, non-family references to carry a gun. From Candace Hathaway. Do we have to do Bruin again, guys? New legislation rolled out by New Jersey lawmakers on Thursday could require insurance to carry a firearm in the state. The new requirements also restrict where permit holders are allowed to carry guns. In June, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that citizens have the right to carry firearms in public for self-defense. Following the decision, Democrat lawmakers in Jersey were quick to ratchet up the state restrictions. The decision by the U.S. Supreme Court earlier this year stripped away the rights for states to regulate who is able to carry concealed weapons in public, said Senate President Nicholas Scutari. This bill, ensuring gun owners provide a legitimate reason for carrying concealed handguns in public, is a promising step in the right direction. Assembly Speaker Craig Coughlin and Senate President Nicholas Scutari reported that the new legislation, unveiled on Thursday, will prevent permit holders from carrying a firearm in schools. Well, the people who are going to shoot up the school will still find a way to do it, but the permit holders won't be able to. Government buildings, polling places, bars, restaurants, theaters, sporting arenas, parks, airports, casinos, and childcare facilities. Okay, 5 of those I understand. Schools, government buildings, I understand those. As much as I disagree with them, I understand. We gotta save our government workers. Polling places, obvious, because tensions get high on that day. Bars, if you're drunk, you shouldn't be carrying. And airports, again, with the TSA doing everything that they're doing stupidly, you shouldn't be carrying in the airport anyway, especially since most people who are there are intent on getting on an airplane. And if you fire one of those things off in an airplane and it goes through the aluminum siding, everybody on that plane is going to be deceased. You have no reason to do that in the airport, especially if you're going to get on a plane. I could see if you weren't getting on a plane, but the vast majority of people who are there are going to go get on an aluminum skinned can that's going to go through the air, and losing pressure is deadly to a lot of people. Those applying for a concealed carry permit would be required to have accidental discharge insurance. According to Scutari, marketplaces already offer similar insurance plans. Permit applicants would also need to participate in gun safety training and obtain non-family references to vouch for their character. I agree with one, but not the other. If the state's going to license you to carry something that's dangerous, you should be going through gun safety training, which I think everybody should go through it anyway. I've been through it. We had hunter safety when I was a kid. I had to take it at 13 just to get a hunting permit. And obtain non-family references to vouch for their character. That I don't agree with. The legislation creates new screening that would disqualify individuals with convictions and past violations of restraining orders. In addition, applicants with concerning character of temperament, which the legislation did not define, will also be disqualified. So, the Bruin decision has made this a shall issue permit situation for concealed carry, but now, as we saw, and as has been predicted in numerous different outlets, the permitting process has become onerous and heavier. We don't want you to carry, so we will make it as impossible as we can to make you carry. Got a couple videos here. Joe Biden on deck again because he's Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. Joe Biden says Republicans will get rid of savings on your utility bills. Never mind the fact that my utility bill is up $40 when I don't have heat to deal with. Let's listen.
That means they're going to repeal the $2,000 cap on prescription drugs. Gone. Cap on insulin. Gone. At $35. Savings on health care premiums average of $400 a person. Gone. Savings on your utility bills. Gone. Corporate minimum tax of 15%. By the way, they got very upset with me. That means they're going to repeal the $2,000 cap on prescription drugs. Gone. Cap on insulin. Gone. At $35. Savings on health care premiums average of $400 a person. Gone. Savings on your utility.
I got another video over here that I just found as well, telling us what it is that they actually think about us. But I'll drag that over here in just a second. This one, I didn't pre-listen to this one, but it caught my attention on the headline here. Democrat Rep. Minnesota Rep. Angie Craig, I will never stop standing up for Big Pharma and standing against my constituents.
I will never stop standing up for Big Pharma and standing against my constituents.
Thank you, Anne.
I will.
Yeah, that's a campaign ad right there, isn't it? I think she just said the quiet part out loud. I know we're fond of that statement here. All right, let me bring this one across. I got to step away from the desk for a moment. But in doing so, we will listen. And of course, this is Red-Haired Bobblehead's one of her first really big appearances on MSDNC that I've seen anyway. But Brookings Shadi Hamid, there's 74 million Trump voters. We can't just wish them away. So we have to find a way to live with them, even if we think they're bad people, even if we think they're a threat to everything we hold dear. Let's listen.
Right. As we look to 2024, because my former boss also talked about how one Trump term is one thing, two Trump terms is another thing.
Totally different thing. Yeah.
What lessons should Americans take from what has happened around the world if there are extended years of a government in place who's fighting against democracy and fighting against fundamental rights of people? What could happen with more years?
Yeah, well, so you're right that it's a universal thing. And we can talk about Europe has its own cases where in Italy we might have the first far-right prime minister since Mussolini. And that person will have come to power through elections. Or the Sweden Democrats, a party with neo-Nazi origins. So it's not just America, it's happening all over the place because we're not debating economic issues anymore. We're debating cultural issues, identity issues, issues around religion. So I think we have to accept that people who we completely disagree with are sometimes going to win. So there's 74 million Trump supporters, voters. We can't just wish them away. They're not going to disappear. So then we have to find a way to live with them, even if we think they're bad people, even if we think they're a threat to everything we hold dear, because what's the other option that's in front of us? And that's a challenge because a lot of people will say, well, they're deplorable and we can't find a way to live with them.
Michael.
Isn't it a little bit ironic, though, that you reference Italy, for example, and...
Well, there are a couple of problems that I have with this clip, and obviously, because I just found this while we were looking at the other one. One of the big problems that I have with this clip is the fact that they say, oh, well, we're debating cultural issues, not economic issues. No, you're debating cultural issues. I'm debating economic issues because that's what's handling, and that's part of the reason that we do Contemporary. And I'm trying to build a media empire of news and culture by the common man for the common man because I want to talk about the things that are going to affect the people that watch this program directly. The January 6th Selfie Fest committee doesn't affect us. I can't believe I spent as much time on that today as I did because that doesn't affect you and me. The evil people will still be in power no matter what the outcome is of the January 6th Selfie Fest committee. The government is still going to try to kill you, they're still going to hate you, and they're still going to want all of your taxes constantly, forever. So there's not that much point to go back out and talk about this committee again. But you know what is going to affect you? Oh, that pork loin? Oh, look, I found this pork loin in the freezer here that I bought before the pandemic. Oh, hey, look, this is $3.99. Oh, that was good. I want another one in the store. What do you mean it's $7.99 now? That's what affects you. The truck that I need to use for work, because occasionally I need to haul stuff around outside. Man, it cost me $80 to fill it up when I first got it here. Why does it cost me $120 now? That's the kind of thing that's going to affect you directly. So no, yes, the rest of us are talking about economic issues. You in your ivory tower say, oh, a Republican might hate the blacks. Talk about an ivory tower mentality. Let's see. We could probably get to a couple more here. I glossed over this yesterday because it was Candace, and I don't care for Candace, but let's talk about this. I'll bite my tongue on Owens and how much I don't like the fact that she doxes anybody that disagrees with her. From Insider, banking giant JP Morgan Chase cuts ties with Kanye West after a series of recent controversies, conservative commentator Candace Owens says. From Beatrice Nolan, banking giant JP Morgan Chase has cut its ties with Kanye and his Yeezy brand, according to conservative commentator Candace Owens, who was seen earlier this month with West in Paris. Owens, who was pictured wearing a White Lives Matter t-shirt alongside West at a fashion show, tweeted a picture of a letter that appears to have been sent to West by the bank. She said there was no official reason given for West's relationship with the bank being terminated, though he has in recent weeks courted controversy with a White Lives Matter t-shirt, and a number of anti-Semitic comments. The letter shared by Owens reads, "We are sending this letter to confirm our recent discussion with a redacted name that JP Morgan Chase, N.A., the bank, has decided to end its banking relation with the Yeezy LLC and its affiliated entities." According to the picture shared by Owens, the bank asked West to transfer his business to another financial institution before November 21st, adding that any accounts open past this date would be closed with the remaining funds returned via check. Representatives for Kanye could not be reached for comment, while JP Morgan Chase declined to comment when contacted by Insider. Yeah, it might be time to get out of Chase Bank too. And by the way, I was like this close to opening a Chase account. I got an advertisement. I'm not going to name the bank that I use currently, but I am having issues with them in a personnel manner with our local branch. And I was ready to go back out and yank all my money out of that bank, but because I may be moving in the near future, I would like to keep a national level bank on. And I got an advertisement for Chase, and I'm really glad that I didn't, because I would have to be back out and closing them right now. Chase right now is going out with desperate advertising. Hey, $250 if you open a new account right now. And realistically, if they can turn away the amount of money that Yeezy LLC puts through their bank, the amount of interest, because I'm sure he's got large amounts of loans in there, the amount of interest on savings that he's got, because I'm sure he's got large amounts of savings, the payroll that goes through there and everything else, if they can just walk away from that, then they don't deserve to be in business. Shut them down. Makes you think of a meme with a guy with a walkie-talkie screaming, "Shut it down." I'm not going to say anything more about that meme. Alright, what else do we have? I'm going to skip around a little bit. Let's do this one. From the USA Today, please calm down. School board meeting descends into chaos as protesters target LGBTQIRAMIGIXTBIAIMTIPLMA books. From Niraj Wariku. Hundreds of protesters packed a Michigan school board meeting on Monday and shut it down. Shut it down. With cries of anger over certain LGBTQIRAMIGIXTBYIAML2- books they said are too sexually explicit for children. A heavy police presence failed to prevent the Dearborn Public Schools meeting from descending into chaos as demonstrators took it over, and then various factions within them jostled for control, shouting at each other. Protesters often ignored the requests of police officers to stop interrupting board members. It was unclear who was in control of the meeting at the time. Most of the crowd appeared to be in opposition to the books, but there was also a number of people with the American Federation of Teachers Union who showed up to support the inclusion of LGBTQIRAMIGIXTBYAIMLTI2RA multiplication sign people and others. Not until Dearborn Police Chief Issa Shaheen arrived later did the protesters stop their agitation. Shaheen pleaded with the crowd to relax and not embarrass Michigan City just outside of Detroit. Please calm down, let's have respect for each other, Shaheen told the crowd. We can have a spirited debate, but we can't conduct ourselves this way. Guys, we just can't. We're better than this. Dearborn is better than this. This community is better than this. We're brothers and sisters regardless of race, ethnicity, and religion. Vote them out, the crowd repeatedly chanted during the raucous meeting inside an admin center where the board holds its public meetings. The room was packed tightly. And, by the way, they didn't bring this down and they didn't put this until the very end of the article for a reason. Several held up signs with anti-gay rhetoric in English and Arabic, making religious references to assert that the LGBTQIRAMIGIXTBYAMTIRMIA- education materials and books should not be available in Dearborn Public Schools, the third largest school district in Michigan. That's right. They are protesting this because they are Muslim. And Muslim, while being one of the protected classes because you can't say anything otherwise you'd be labeled Islamophobic, is staunchly against LGBTQIRAMIGIXTBYAIAMPIROM, sometimes Y plus sign. They're shutting it down. It's kind of based, actually. Let's listen to a little bit of this. No spoken audio. Okay, I don't know what's going on with that. Flooding in East Providence. Yeah, we don't care about that. Wasn't a lot of talk about this particular parent meeting, shutting down school board meeting. Could it be because it wasn't perpetrated by white Christian males? The evil white Christian males? I don't know. Some good news. Somebody taking advantage of the government. I'm always in support of that. From the Associated Press. Seller exploits gun buyback loophole with the help of a 3D printer. From Michael Hill. This photo, provided by Office of New York Attorney General Letitia James on August 28, 2022, shows some of the 296 firearms, including 177 ghost guns that were surrendered to law enforcement at a gun buyback event hosted by her office and the Utica, New York Police Department. The New York Attorney General's office has tightened rules on gun buybacks after a critic of the policy boasted online about receiving $21,000 in gift cards for weapons parts made on a 3D printer. Buybacks are a popular way for government officials to try to get guns off the streets, but they can also attract people trying to demonstrate that buybacks are futile in an era of printable weapons. This might actually make me want to go buy a 3D printer, even though I don't think that we'll ever have a buyback here in Wisconsin. From Albany, New York. No, I don't want to join the AP. Go the French toast away. I do want to put music back up, though. New York's AG has changed the rules of a state gun buyback program after a participant exploited the system using a 3D printer to make firearm parts in bulk that he then turned in for $21,000 in gift cards. The seller, who identified himself by a pseudonym, said he traveled from West Virginia to a gun buyback in August 27th in Utica to take advantage of the loophole in the program and to demonstrate that buybacks are futile in the area of printable weapons. At the buyback, he turned in 60 printed auto sears, small devices that can convert firearms into fully automatic weapons, under the rules of the buyback hosted by AG Letitia James and City Police that entitled him to $350 for each of the printed parts, including a $100 premium since they were deemed ghost guns lacking serial numbers. The seller, who declined to provide his real name, said in an email to the Associated Press on Monday that the prospect of making money was enticing, but that the big reason he took part in the buyback was to send a message. He called the idea of buybacks ridiculously stupid, adding that the people running this event are horribly uneducated about guns, gun crime, and the laws surrounding the regulation of guns. James' office said it responded to the exploited loophole by giving buyback personnel more discretion to determine the value of weapons being handled in, and setting a standard that all 3D printed guns accepted by the program must be capable of being fired more than once. The new rules were in place by September 17th when the AG's office hosted a gun buyback in the Syracuse suburb of Camillus. It's shameful that this individual exploited a program that has successfully taken thousands of guns off the street to protect our communities from gun violence, James's office said in a statement. No, it's shameful that thousands of people will come in and hand you back a gun for a $350 gift card that they probably spent $1,500 to $2,000 on. That's what's shameful, that people would willingly give up their ability to defend themselves. I used to live in Kenosha. Never again will I give up my armaments. Buybacks are a popular way for government officials to try to get guns off the street, typically with a promise of no questions asked and amnesty for someone who turns in an illegal weapon. But see, now, if you're going in and turning in 3D printed weapons and they have to fire at least once, more than once, then that's questions asked. Some firearms turned into those programs are legally owned, others are relinquished by people who aren't allowed to own weapons or are turning in guns that have been illegally altered. I don't ever want to meet the kind of person who would turn in a ghost gun. Why? Why would you do that? The rule change by James comes as state and federal officials attempt to deal with the proliferation of ghost guns. President Biden announced in April changes to the definition of a firearm under federal law to include unfinished parts, which would include those made by 3D printers. The New York AG's office has been hosting buybacks since 2013, and James has recently warned that ghost guns are fueling a gun violence epidemic, and sees buybacks as part of the solution, as do police forces in Syracuse and elsewhere. Now, the only thing ghost guns are fueling is you having to buy $21,000 worth of gift cards. Ya morons. And good on this guy. Absolutely. I'm guessing that they keep giving, because from what I understand, they give you like restaurant gift cards and stuff like that. This guy probably doesn't have to buy groceries for a year. Might put on a little bit in this place, but I mean, a lot of us have that at this point. But yeah, he's probably not going to have to go to the grocery store for quite a while. Let's do this one, and then I'm going to do this Daily Mail, and then we'll do the live chat for the day. So, some moving and shaking in the state lines, which is interesting to me, because I'd like to see where people secede from their big blue state governments and get to keep their farms. By 2024, you could have a border mood. Fed up Oregonians heat up secession move to join Idaho. Way to go, Idaho! I always thought when I was younger that Idaho sounded like a woman who was being extremely proud over the fact that she was sexually promiscuous. Idaho! A movement from some Oregon conservatives to push to secede and join the adjacent conservative state of Ohio is heating up. Citizens of 9 counties in eastern Oregon have already indicated they would support the redrawing of Oregon's borders. 2 more counties have impending votes urging legislators to support such a move. It makes much more sense for eastern Oregonians to get state-level governance coming from Idaho, where they share their values, share their culture, share their politics, than it does to be governed by western Oregon. Matt McCaw, the spokesman for the Greater Idaho Movement, informed Fox News. In order for the secession move, which started 3 years ago, to succeed, both state legislatures of Oregon and Idaho would have to approve, as well as the U.S. Congress. 2 of those things are not going to approve. I can tell you that right off the bat. The west side of Oregon, which contains urban areas such as Portland, Eugene, and Bend, leans heavily to the political left, but much of the rest of the state harbors conservative values. Well, yeah, it's like Illinois and Chicago. The only real liberal areas in Illinois are Springfield and Chicago. And yet it's consistently a blue state. Have you seen a map of upstate, a political map of upstate versus New York City? Mass is pretty blue the whole way through. I've been there before. I lived there. It's always been a problem because the west side has many more voters, McCaw added. They have the numbers to dictate what happens statewide. Yeah, just like Illinois. Idaho doesn't have a homelessness problem. Oregon's keeps growing. The Greater Idaho Movement claims on its website, Idaho doesn't restrict the building of new homes. Combining all taxes together, the average Idahoan paid $1,722 less in taxes in 2019 than the average Oregonian. That's averaging together every adult or child. Noting the preponderance of voters in northwestern Oregon embrace leftist policies, Greater Idaho opines this has led to a ruling party that ignores eastern Oregon because none of our legislators are in the ruling party. But in Idaho, our representatives would be part of the majority. 80% of the Idaho legislature is Republican and mostly rural. Oregon state school curriculum teaches radical theories on race, gender, sexuality, and anti-Americanism, the website charges. Oregon limits charter schools, homeschooling, and local control. Idaho's pinko pox mandates were only statewide for a few weeks, not 2 years. We're not leaving Oregon. Northwest Oregon left us. But realistically, and it's the same thing here, honestly. This is considered to be a very, very purple to blue state where I live in Wisconsin. It's purple in the fact that most of our state legislature is very conservative, which is why we don't actually get a lot done in government, which is based. It's kind of why I like living here. I don't want to live in a red state because I want to live in a state that's hamstrung, that can't do anything. I didn't like the Walker years because most of our legislature is conservative. I like, as much as I dislike Tony Evers, I like that dichotomy where we're butting heads because they can't get a damn thing done. But the purple in our purple state legitimately comes from Madison and Milwaukee, with a little bit mixed in with Green Bay. But Green Bay is not as blue as they say that it is. And again, as mentioned, downstate Illinois has talked about forcing Chicago out to make itself its own state. Now, I don't know that by their charter they can force another city out. I think Chicago would have to vote to become their own state, and I know that they won't do that. But I mean, if you look at the numbers elsewhere too, like in any other major big battleground purple state, Arizona, the purpling of that is only because of Maricopa. Pennsylvania, well, they've got a couple actually, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, etc. Virginia seems to be only really blue because of the cities and counties that butt up against Washington, D.C. Would I like to see the redraw? Actually, maybe. But I guess we'll see what happens with that. And the last one. just because we want to make sure that everybody knows, and it looks like we've got 80s Kid in here as well, so something that goes, well, from a UK outlet. Well, an outlet owned by the UK. Let me rephrase that. From the Daily Mail. Exclusive. No basis in science or data, just ideology. Critics slam Harvard Children's Hospital for claiming babies know in the womb if they're transgender. This is kind of like the sweating, button-pushing guy. It's just a clump of cells, or they know in the womb if they're transgender. From Connor Boyd, health director for DailyMail.com, and Cassidy Morrison, senior health reporter for DailyMail.com. A Harvard-affiliated children's hospital has sparked outrage after claiming some babies know they're transgender from the womb. In a now-deleted video, Boston Children's suggested that an even larger number of minors know as soon as they can talk. Critics told the Daily Mail that the claim was not based on the science and suggested that medics at the clinic are unwilling to question children who are often vulnerable. The hospital, part of the Harvard University medical system, also claims it rushed under 18s into life-altering sex change surgery. In the clip posted by the Boston Hospital's official YouTube page in August, psychologist Dr. Carrie McGregor explains the type of patient she sees. She says, so most of the patients we have in the clinic actually know their gender, usually around the age of puberty. But a good portion of children know as early as seemingly from the womb. And they'll usually express their gender identity as very young children, some as soon as they can talk. Kids know very, very early. It comes as several states begin to clamp down on puberty blockers being prescribed to children. Texas Governor Greg Abbott has previously likened it to child abuse. And not only, even though the video has been deleted, somebody else was able to catch the video, and we get to listen to it.
So most of the patients that we have in the GEMS clinic actually know their gender, usually around the age of puberty, but a good portion of children do know as early as seemingly from the womb, and they will usually express their gender identity as very young children, some as soon as they can talk. They might say phrases such as I'm a girl, or I'm a boy, or I'm going to be a woman, or I'm going to be a mom. Kids know very, very early. So in the GEMS clinic we see a variety of young children all the way down to ages 2 and 3, and usually up to the ages of 9. When they come into the clinic, they'll see one of our psychologists, and we'll be talking to them about their gender. We'll be talking to their family about how to best support that child and how to make sure that that child has the space and support to explore their gender and do well throughout their development. And we'll be answering any parent questions. A lot of parents do have questions, and so we answer those questions. The biggest piece of advice I give parents who are coming through the gender clinic at Boston Children's Hospital is to just be supportive. Sometimes you might not understand, sometimes you feel like you don't know the terms, or you don't kind of get exactly what the child means when they say that they might be this gender, but the biggest thing you can do is just love your child and support them and just allow them to express themselves. That's the biggest protector as well against negative mental health effects such as depression, suicidality, anxiety that we worry about for our gender diverse kids and young adults. So that support from a parent is one of the best protective factors and one of the best things they can do.
Gender-affirming hysterectomy is very...
So, I usually wouldn't do something like this as late on the show because we could go for hours on the political, psychological, and societal ramifications of what this woman just said. And we've talked them out to death. But I did want to make sure that I got to this one here because this has been on the stack for a week as of today. So I wanted to make sure that we got to this one because, again, it's not necessarily that we sit back and talk about the evils of transgenderism being forced onto kids as much as they're young. It's the fact that somebody came out and said something that goes against the clump of cells narrative. It's a clump of cells, but it's a clump of cells that knows that it's transgender even in the womb. You can't square those two circles together. And I think that's hilarious. All right, let's look at live chat. So, we have quite a bit. We got quite a few people watching. And it looks like a few people are lurking too, which is fine. We still love the lurkers. We love everybody who comes back and watches us. So we're going to go through some of the live chat today of some of what you guys are saying. Some of the things that I cannot say on the air. I've seen what some of you guys have been putting out there. But we'll also go through and say thank you to everybody whose name is now appearing in the notebook. So, well, let's look into this first. Let's have music. Why don't we have music? Let's have music. Kind of got to fly through this, unfortunately, too, because we are running up on the clock. We'll go down to Gaines getting here, just in case things jump, because you guys were very active in the chat today. Scooby2 says, Happy Friday. That's a new name that's been here all week. And thank you for joining us. It looks like you have subscribed, so thank you for that. Gaines, it just be like that sometimes. Arvolt is here. Good morning, friends. Mr. Zed is here. Hola, mi amigo. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And Quest Fanning, good morning, fellow hominids. Arvolt, Breaking Puritans voted unanimously to burn the witch. Yes, they did. All right, we'll put a pin in this, and we will see what happened throughout the week this week. Monday, our top chatters were Quest Fanning, 80s Kid, Arvolt, Harvey McLeod, Job for 9, MK Ultra, Ron Helton, Randy Crush Saga, and Scooby2. Scooby2 was here every day this week, too, by the way, and got at least one message in, so he could have a thank you given to him. Tuesday was Randy Crush Saga, Horatius, Job for 9, KTZed, Arvolt, Quest Fanning, Ron Helton, and Scooby2. Wednesday, A Gaines P, Horatius, Quest Fanning, Harvey McLeod, Arvolt 24, Nephilim Ninja of Nibiru joined us on Wednesday. Welcome back, Neph. We'd love to see you here. And Scooby2 yesterday, in order of chatter, because for whatever reason, it takes like 24 hours to register on the Restream site, so a lot of the times I just go through the Restream window like you see on the screen there, and take the Thursday chatters there. Thursday's chatters in order of when they chatted first. Ron Helton, Scooby2, Horatius, Arvolt 24, Quest Fanning, A Gaines P, and Vampire Hunter D. What do we have going on today? All right, let's see. We left off with Burn the Witch. Arvolt says, if J6 is going to be discussed, I'm going to need more coffee and maybe a little bit of whiskey. I'm actually out of coffee right now. I'll have to go get another cup before we go to work. Horatius is here. It's finally getting real for people, out there for people. Yeah, it is. It's getting tough. Randy is here. Arvolt, how can Trump be central to a plot when there was no plot? I don't know, but they need to have his name in your mouth. The only person on camera plotting was Ray Epps. Who is Ray Epps? Mr. Zed says, theater is so tolerant and inclusive, though. Yes, it is. Gaines, who produced this movie? The cinematography and editing are amazing. That was a voiceover after the fact. Go ahead and give them the Oscar for sound as well. Oh, yes, absolutely. Such a tense moment. We need to slow down and figure out who has jurisdiction. Arvolt says, weren't they offered the National Guard prior to January 6th and Pelosi declined it, or am I confused? That is actually unclear. I'm not completely positive whether or not they were. And I'm going to come out and admit it. I know that most of my friends to the right of me say that, oh yes, they absolutely were. And most of my friends to the left of me say, no, only Muriel Bowser can activate the National Guard. I actually don't know the answer to that question, whether or not they were offered. And I will come out fully and admit it. Arvolt says the red X was COVID separation rules. Oh, I thought it was stage blocking or something. Ron Helton is here. So they were pooping on the floors. What a bunch of sickos. Maybe it was the Democrats who pooped themselves. That could be. Gaines, those masks they half-assed wore to help keep them safe. Yep. Quest Fanning just came back in the middle of this. What's happening? A bunch of FBI agents banged on the door with a gun of a terrified family while they hauled Daddy off to a fate that he doesn't know. Mr. Zed says maybe he had information on the whereabouts of stolen assault hangers. Oof. 7 kids is pro-life for sure. Yes, it is. Ron Helton's got a sinus infection. Produced by Robert Kennedy Jr. I have a feeling one of the parents might not think this is punishment enough. Dahmer comes to mind. Yeah. Horatius, the jurors sympathize for the perpetrator, not the victims. Many such cases nowadays. That happened because Obama making it so that non-whites could not get expelled or suspended unless it was to their percentages at school. That's why Cruz got in trouble dozens of times and nothing. Had to use a clear, and nothing happened rather, had to use a clear plastic backpack because they knew he was a potential school shooter. Quest Fanning agrees with DeSantis. Ron, while I don't think there's any doubt of his guilt, I'm also not really fond of the death penalty, but he took so many lives, he is unredeemable. Arvold, Parkland shooter. I did it. Punish me, Daddy. Judge, stop making this weird. Horatius says, of course women feel empathy for him, but not the kids who are no longer here. The jurors can explain it to God someday. It's always different when you're the one who has to vote to execute. Serious trolley problem. That is fair. Quest Fanning says, if you're in a secure location, it's reasonable to request not to carry. A school is not such a place. Would my buddy shoot me? Biden is the one who repealed the cap. Trump put on insulin prices. Well, yeah, that's because he had to make it through legislation so Republicans could vote against it and be evil. Horatius says they agreed to be able to decide to put him to death when they became jurors. If they said they couldn't, they wouldn't have been allowed on the jury. Those jurors committed perjury and should be in jail. Everything they hold dear, they hold the wrong things dear if they need to impose on us. Base Swedish Vikings. Yeah. Ron, well, those effing commies don't just quit their BS, do they? Horatius, this guy's for white genocide, I bet. Yeah, probably. 80s Kid says, my daughter was diagnosed with type 1 a few months ago. She's 29. Luckily, insulin is free in the UK. Ron says, oh, he's from the Brookings Institute. Yeah, they're a bunch of damn commies over there. I debated with those Reds in the past. U.S. subsidizes the UK military and defense because the UK knows the U.S. will fight for them, so the UK puts their defense money budget into their healthcare system. So thank American taxpayers for your daughter's free insulin. Yeah, it's free to end user, but you're still paying for it. Definitely are. Ron Helton says, I find that totally despicable that the financial institutions are doing this kind of stuff in this free country. JP Morgan needs to be put out of business. Weren't they one of those that got TARP money? Yes, they were, in fact. Horatius says, they don't care about money. They have it all already. It's about pushing their ideology. Conservatives and libertarians cannot wrap their minds around the fact, though they show it all the time. Problems with NHS are perennial. It's so funny to see British conservatives complaining about the quality of care rather than trying to shut down NHS third rail, says Quest Fanning. Horatius says U.S. healthcare system sucks, but it's the tallest midget in the room. Nice, I like that analogy. Ron says, good thing I wasn't born in the UK then. They would have let me die. Doctor told my mom that I would probably not make it since I was extremely underweight at birth. Prettiest waitress at Denny's. It's something, but doesn't say much. There was actually, at the local Denny's here where I live, there was just the one outlier that was a knockout waitress at Denny's. But yes, I do understand that the majority of the rule is the way that Horatius was saying. Gaines, tilde sign is offended you forgot them. Horatius says they will listen to those protesters. They're not white, so their complaints matter. Ron says, Mom refused to listen to the quack, took me home and constantly fed me. Feeding. Wild, Ron. Didn't think of that. 80s Kid says, I'm for one grateful I have the NHS. I'm sick quite a lot. If I didn't have them, I would be in deep crap. And my daughter, with her diabetes, she's going to need lifelong medication. Ron says, I really don't want to bring this up, but it seems Ed might have left off the ampersand group when he was naming all the special people. Horatius says that Oklahoma hospital proved that the U.S. healthcare system is one gigantic fraud or scam. They charge 1/10 rate because they don't accept insurance or Medicare, Medicaid. Let's see. They're asking what it is. Arvold says they're buying your gun that you bought with your money by giving you money that they took from you in taxes. That is correct. Ron says, I've told the story multiple times, but when my mom was 12 years old, she lived on a farm, broke her arm riding a horse. The doctor came to the farm, set her arm, came back once a week to check on her. Finally, they took the cast off. My grandfather paid him with a pig. It looks like it is Surgery Center of Oklahoma. It looks like they do accept private insurance now, but they offer complete transparency on costs and rates and fees, and people from all over the world go there. Now it'll cost you an arm and leg. Yep. 80s Kid says, yes, you're probably right. Personal health insurance would probably be cheaper overall. The NHS is being abused by people coming to UK and getting healthcare for free and not paying for it. Thousands upon thousands of migrants are coming here every month now on boats, immediately qualify for free healthcare while we pay for it. It makes me so mad. Yeah, at least Canada, you actually have to go through some hoops to go to Canada and get free healthcare. Walker, I'd prefer crawler. Quest Fanning says, from the womb, only magical, right after they exit it. $42 at hospital because 100 or more got it for free. Yep. Vampire Hunter D says, no, no, no. Welcome. How does all this BS fit in with their belief that in the theory of evolution and science? Oh yeah, Whitey said that, so it's not true, but it is true, but it isn't true. Yeah. Vampire Hunter D says Sodom and Gomorrah, more like Sodom and gonorrhea. Quest Fanning says hysterectomy, damn near Hissa killed me. Name them. No! Although I don't always speak, I'm here most days watching. Love Contemporary. Some of the daily chat is hilarious. Yeah, absolutely. And I do, even though I don't read it on air, I do read all your chat every single day. Horatius, Trump is the head of a terrorist organization with 74 million members, don't you know? The Jays told me so, and he's talking about, of course, about the Toronto Blue Jays. Susan. He couldn't be talking about anything else except for the Toronto Blue Jays. Quest says Pelosi's on record turning down additional reinforcement that the U.S. Capitol Police requested in advance. Can I do that one on YouTube? That one might be over the line, Horatius. Might not be able to get to that one, and I went pretty spicy today. I did say hi to you, Joffre9. I just couldn't get a word in edgewise around Randy. Joffre9 is here. Yeah, Randy was on a rant when you guys were in. And he asked about it later. He's like, did people come in here and I didn't notice? I'm like, yeah, because you didn't stop talking when you heard the chirp. KTZed sounds very base when he reads my comments. Quest says, my father-in-law's dad is a dentist in Saginaw and frequently got paid in food or other services. Ron says, I need to see if that surgery center needs some HVAC work or roofing. Nice. And with that, I think we are done. All right, I think it's time for us to head out of here for the day. We had a good crowd today, a lot of people. What were we up to, 15 at one point here? We got to get up to 20 at some point soon, so hopefully that'll be coming up in the near future. We are growing the show, by the way. You're bringing more people in, and the more people that come in, the more that we can do to try to improve some things. And right now, the big one is trying to get a new studio. So we got a couple new followers over on the Twitch side, Uncle Lander and Twitchy Bishy, which I don't know that name, but maybe came over from that Dahlia's stream. That's pretty cool. I don't know how a lot of this would go because, well, I'm going to admit that Dahlia that we've been going and raiding is a little bit to the left, like quite a bit, but, you know, again, I don't really care how people live their lives, and I would expect that if we go and raid, and you don't agree with the person politically, that you either bow out quietly or, you know, treat them with respect. We're in their room. I would expect that you do that. That is my expectation for you, as Edheads. But with that, we are going to head out of here for the day. Thanks. Wait, we need outro music for me to say that. And it's 10, by the way. Alright, so thanks everybody who came by and chatted and hung out in the live chat. We're going to head out of here for the day. I kind of got to hurry through this one at this point. So, we'll be back here. I'll be back here tomorrow to do some more Mass Effect. I'm actually kind of enjoying that game now that I've got the hang of how to do it. It's really hard, but there's a challenge to it, and I like that. It's not like going through Fallout 4 and Power Armor right from the beginning, where it's way too easy. So I'm kind of enjoying that. Hopefully you guys will come back and join me for some more of that. Otherwise, we'll be back here on Monday for more news and more headlines and more contemporary. We'll probably find out what's going to happen with the subpoena and everything else for that. So definitely looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing all of you guys over here the next time we are here, and Monday night probably for another stream. Otherwise, always look forward to seeing you. Always look forward to the live chat. And we'll head out of here for the day. We'll go raid over on the Twitch side. And until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.